When dealing with a falsehood, you're faced with two options. You can accept it or you can reject it. The basis upon which we take one of these actions is a product of our critical thinking capabilities and a desire to know what is true instead of confirming our bias. A lie can travel halfway around the world while the truth is still putting on its shoes. On Brainstorm, we choose the hard truths over the comforting lies. Reason, compassion, skepticism. This is the Brainstorm Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the Brainstorm Podcast, Skeptic Studio, the interview portion of the Brainstorm Podcast. I'm Cory, and my panel tonight are Lisa.
It's me.
Angela.
Hello.
Brandon.
Howdy.
Rene.
Hello.
And, of course, the always amazing Dave doing sound.
Hey.
We're here in Roman Empire Studios in Regina, Saskatchewan, and today is April 13th, 2018. Tonight we're talking to 4 members of the Left at the Valley podcast.
Yep.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Holy crap, World War III started on Friday the 13th.
Oh,
Yes.
jeez.
Holy crap.
On purpose.
Well, why don't you guys introduce yourselves?
Well, I guess, hey, we can say about ourselves. We're just exposed, out in beautiful British Columbia, and we're part of the Left of the Valley podcast. My name is Kevin.
I'm Nancy.
I'm Kirsten.
And I'm Christina.
Yeah, usually we have Scott with us, but he's actually traveling your way right now, actually. So, say hello to Scott that way.
Very
He
cool.
went to get some
So I thought having you guys on, we'd start off by hearing your deconversion stories or how you came to label yourselves as atheists, I guess.
What? Atheist show? What kind of show is this?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, didn't you read the label?
here.
Yeah. Well, okay, maybe I'll start.
Sure.
I'll give you the short version. I'm originally from Quebec, so I was raised Catholic. Now, Catholicism, like most people would know, is one of those things that you don't really wear on your sleeve, like you see a lot of evangelicals do out here. So you don't really think much about it. It's a bit like masturbation. Everybody does it, but nobody talks about it. Then my deconversion was a very slow process, actually. It took me a while because I'm a bit of a dumbass. It's only after in my teen years I ended up in the in mass. You have to put on that horrible sweater you hate that your mom made you put on, and you went to mass. And I'm just watching these people, and they're praying and chanting and kneeling and standing and hawing and humming, and I'm thinking, geez, none of these people actually believe this crap. That was my first step towards deconversion right there. I started realizing, you know what? I don't think I believe this stuff either. In a nutshell.
Fair enough. I also took a very long time to at least label myself an atheist. I guess I'm a dumbass too.
Hey, the show was about us.
I'm relating to the guest.
Yeah, it took me a while. It's only in a fairly recent number of years that I've actually taken my apostasy to the next level to be actually quite vocal about it. And now I guess I'm one of those, I don't know, can you see evangelical atheists? No, probably not, but
That's apostasy.
Put it in your face. Yeah, just put it in your face for sure. Let's talk about you.
Yeah, well, Nancy's a little Jewish girl from Chicago a long time ago, but my family was very secular after the grandparents died. So I've always been an atheist. I've never had a conversion or deconversion or brilliant moment brought to you by religion. Nothing. It's just been me and the world. So that makes it short and sweet, I guess.
And we have this running gag on the show that you might not know it. Nancy is the wandering Jew of legend. She's been everywhere and has done everything. She was there when JFK was shot. She was there when Abraham Lincoln was shot. She was there for...
She's in the background of all those black and white pictures.
Yes.
Puppet master that pulls the string from everything.
Oh!
put together the original Jewish calendar. 5,000 and some years ago, there I was with my crayon trying to get all the little Hebrew letters in a row.
All joking aside, though, there's something about Nancy that is just fantastic because as soon as we used to have the segment called This Day in History, and Nancy would read something that happened on this day in history, moments of that have gone through history, and she would almost have a story, a personal story about something. So the gag just kept on growing and growing. So
it's like this happened just the day after I was in town. It's like, oh.
I mean, she started with JFK. She was with JFK moments before he was shot, and she just happened to be on some grassy knoll somewhere. A banjo. She says it's a banjo anyway.
It's all just a screen.
I know. Don't tell everybody. Don't ever be the oldest person in the room because you're immediately a target. So hey, it's okay. I love these guys, and it's fun every week.
Good. That's awesome.
All right, I guess it's my turn. I don't quite have the same story as everyone else. My family was never religious. I got dealt a different set of cards. Instead of being born into religion, I was born with one hand.
Oh. Interesting.
Yeah.
We were just talking about...
You might not know is that one hand she's got a mean punch.
Yeah.
Because normally when somebody punches you, your wrist kind of gives way.
Right,
but
yeah.
bare bone, right? She just, bam, knocks you
It
right
really
out.
is.
You don't want to get in the way of that punch.
Would you believe we were just talking about the mean number of hands amongst people?
Yeah, I was trying to explain that the mean number of hands of the human population is less than what most people have, right? Like the mean number of hands must be like less than one, right?
Or less than two.
Less than two, sorry, less than two. But like, even though the mode is 2, the mean is less than 2 and not.
Yeah, we were talking statistics.
You should have done a couple of examples out there of people with 3, 4. That'd be kind of cool, just to raise the average.
Well, the question is, do conjoined twins count as one person?
That's a good question indeed.
Very good question.
What about those internal cysts with body parts in them?
Exactly. I don't know people, and he was asking like what happens if like a person has like just a finger or like no fingers but only a palm, and it was very anyways.
So this is what you guys talk about on a regular basis, I see.
Sorry, I interrupted. Continue.
Fantastic.
That is a personal fascination with mics.
Well, I guess I'm the only one left to spill my story. So I grew up in a very, very Christian home. I would say we were fundamentalists. It was like 6 a.m. Bible studies, young Earth creation.
Oh God, I'm
like I was basically brainwashed with Kent Hovind videos growing up.
Oh.
And like Alex Jones was always on at our home.
For real?
Yeah, totally. I also have 10 siblings.
Wow.
Oh, one of those quiverful sorts.
Yeah. I think until like 5 years before I was born, my parents were part of like a quiverful cult. So yeah.
Interesting.
It was a very, very interesting growing up experience. Though when I was about 7 years old, my family got a little less religious. So we were allowed to wear like pants and pierce our ears.
That's so awesome.
Angela showed up in a traditional Ukrainian garb.
Oh, that's awesome.
You're right. Pants are awesome. I'm glad
it's Mennonite. Get it right. Sorry.
Pardon my cultural insensitivity.
Sensitive.
Yeah. And then I continued being very devoutly religious until I was about 18. Like there wasn't even a question in my mind that like God doesn't exist. So I have a twin sister, and she, when we were about 14, deconverted. And she's now a Wiccan. So we would have like these long discussions, and I would be telling her how awesome God is and how she just has to get to know him. And through these conversations, we probably had them for maybe about 6 months. And then there was one conversation where she said I sounded like a battered wife. And it flipped a switch in my brain because I was like, oh, wait, wow, I do sound like that. And within So it happened. She said that on a Friday, and by the Monday, I was an atheist.
You know, I could totally see Jesus with a little white tank top with a spit stain on it.
Yeah, that's right.
I could totally see that.
A beer in his hand.
I'm just trying to get past the idea of if you're raised in that fundamentalist of a family and someone goes Wiccan. I mean,
yeah, I know, right? Well, she didn't. Tell
I'm kind of envisioning Monty Python right now.
Yeah,
Mom, Dad, I can't be Catholic anymore. Oh
no, I'm thinking more like burn the witch. What do you burn other than witches? More witches.
My parents were more Mennonite than Catholic.
Oh,
hence the young Earth creation.
Yeah. Were you ever
There you
to
go.
be nuked?
No, thankfully not. Though my sister did accuse me of being a witch because I liked Harry Potter.
Oh, there's another box on the bingo sheet.
Yep, totally.
That's the thing about Christina as well. She's a huge fan of Harry Potter, and she literally infects every show we do with a Harry Potter thing or two in there for sure, for good measure. No matter how many times I try to shut off our microphone, I just can't get there in time.
I yell it.
Nice.
And so after I deconverted, I was still living with a Christian relative at the time. So it took about 6 months for me to openly show that I was atheist, and like listening to podcasts was a huge help for me because it showed me that they weren't evil, and I wasn't evil, and that there was a community to go into because I was leaving a church that was really close knit. So and
now you own one of them.
Yes, exactly.
How long was it? How long ago was this?
Oh, let's see, probably about 3 years. 3 years.
Okay.
Maybe. I can't really remember right now. It all kind of blends together. Yeah, but it hasn't been that long in the grand scheme of things.
All right.
We're just glad she deconverted so she could be part of our group
yes.
here.
Yeah,
I'm certainly glad she deconverted.
We just need wackiness in our group.
We need the one who has a sibling who's a Wiccan. That's the Voidberg I feel right there.
Yeah. Check that box. Got it.
Got that one. For your diversity checklist.
Yes. Yes.
Well, for our diversity checklist, Kirsten and I are actually engaged.
Yes, we are.
Nice.
To each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So that was another thing that deconverting from religion changed so much for me, because until then I was like, oh, I'm straight. And then I was like, oh, religion, God isn't a thing. And then I actually started assessing myself and things that I felt and thought. And I was like, oh, I like girls. Okay.
So I guess Alex Jones is right. Atheism makes you gay.
I don't want to acknowledge this, so we're going to pretend that didn't happen.
I'm joking. Okay.
She's a positively happy person now.
Exactly.
My hairdresser is the gayest man ever, and he's religious. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Anyways.
He obviously doesn't read his Bible.
I don't know. He's just raised... Yeah, in a very religious household, and I think he goes to a Unitarian church, and they accept him and his son, and I don't know, he feels it, and it is what it is.
There's actually a United Church here in town that has a gay pastor. So then the congregation is mostly it's an LGBT church, basically. So
that's cool.
Yeah, I mean it's better than the other kinds.
They don't even follow the Bible. They're just let's just do whatever. They don't even.
Yeah.
Does speak highly to the need that we seem to have to believe in something, to have some answer. I think that's one of the flaws of our species. We don't we prefer a bad answer to a non-answer, and I think that's one of the big reasons why people stick to religion so much. It gives you an answer. It's not a good answer, but it gives you an answer nonetheless.
Yeah, that in the sense of community, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And also the sense of how you grew up, right? You grew up thinking this is normal, this is how. It gives you that sense of same reason that I I love McDonald's because the freaking commercials are on TV and they indoctrinated me as a kid to love it. And there's still something in me once in a while. I'm just I want a McDonald's. It's just something, it's childhood, right?
They also bribed you.
Yeah. The Happy Meals.
The other thing about religion is the shared experiences too. And the singing and the sermons, you're all facing the dude while he's talking about shit. And then the rituals of communion eating Jesus and drinking Jesus, and
not
and
all
baptism.
religions have that, but
not all, but like a lot of them do. Just similar things that you do on a regular basis, or like how to level up in the religion.
Well, this is like our church, right? This is like our atheism church every other Friday.
Yeah, we bring the snacks. This is our eat the gummies, and then we talk about stuff.
During my deconversion, I started getting suspicious because the priest would say, give you the wafer, and that was the body of Christ. Then he'd give you the wine, and that was the blood of Christ. And then he pulled out a jar of mayonnaise, and I said, "No, that's it, we're done."
I'm not interested.
You know what? 2 out of 3 is good.
At least it wasn't hollandaise sauce.
That's right. Church.
Louis C.K. does this bit where he calls like the icing on a Cinnabon like the best tasting jizz in the world or something.
Has he tasted his own jizz?
I don't know.
Probably.
You'd have to,
he has?
You could ask him, but then he might sexually harass you. So.
He'd jack off and be like, "Here, you try some." That's
probably.
what he would do.
Yeah.
Free sample.
The audience to know that the comments of Left in the Valley are not necessarily those of Brainstorm Podcast.
Oh, we have that. We have that at the
end. We definitely have a disclaimer.
Yeah.
Our comments are not even our own.
Did they not know this about us? Uh-oh.
It's rather impressive. Cory actually writes all our banter. It's actually amazing
scripted.
That way.
Seems like chaos, but it's actually very closely scripted.
I'm really impressed with how he channels Angela.
He knows me so well. He understands me. So what I'd like to know about you guys is how you met each other and how you came to do the podcast Left in the Valley. At the Valley, sorry.
We were just all sort of wandering around in the junkyard, and we saw this equipment. It looked like kind of a microphone.
Is that like the hurricane that builds the airplane?
My God. And yet,
if we could find a console, we could put on a show.
It's Mad Max, the podcast.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nancy was drunk that night. It was karaoke night, actually. And she just happened to grab a microphone and say, "Who here hates God?" No,
that's
the real
not
story.
The song, Nancy.
The real story happened is I used to do documentaries I used to show for the public for free. I was a little group called Cinema Politica. I used to show these documentaries and try to get people to discuss, and I would bring a guest on the topic that was relevant. And during these movies, it seemed that the bad guy was always corporate America. And then I started thinking, why is it always corporate America? And then my deconversion brought me to that line in the Bible that says, that man will have dominion over the earth. And I realized that was one of the reasons that we have so many problems today with our monetary system and our capitalist system. So I decided to be a bit more vocal about atheism and try to fight religion in that sense. Of course, people mocked me right away. So I started listening to a whole bunch of podcasts. And to be quite honest, some of them were really, really good. And some of them really sucked. And I thought, geez, I wonder if I could do something better than this. Turns out, no. But at least I give it a shot.
And we have fun doing it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
At first, our shows were extremely rough. I mean, we've been doing this for 4 years now. Our show, don't do yourself a favor, do not listen to our first shows. They're extremely rough. Nancy was always supportive from the get-go, and eventually she just became part of the crew, and she's been with us ever since. The crew has, over time, changed. Some people have come, some people have gone, and it's always open format. What I think what's interesting about our show is a bit like what you guys are doing now. You're all in the same room, and there's this chemistry that develops. You see a lot of these podcasts out there. They'll have a guy in Ottawa and a guy in Montreal and they're all communicating over the internet, which is great. But you don't have the same sense of chemistry that you guys are establishing right now with your podcast, and we're doing the same.
If you can't smell each other, it's no good.
Exactly.
Also, another benefit of Angela.
Best smelling.
I feel like I'm being singled out here.
We don't smell you, really.
from listening to you guys and knowing us, I think we share the fact that we're all very different, and yet we come together with pretty much the same spirit, and we really are open to whatever goes on during the show. If the whole thing is a tangent during our free period before the interview, that's okay. We get through it, and we have a good time, and we all bring something different into the show. Sometimes it's a good thing, sometimes it's a weird thing, but it all works for us, and it's just a happy thing to come together. And if we have an audience, that's wonderful. That's what we we hope we're entertaining.
Basically into the void.
Yeah, we always manage to entertain ourselves and everyone else at the same time. So it's a fun group, and we really sound pretty much the way you guys have come together.
Mm-hmm. But then, from then on, of course, the show started to develop organically. At first, we weren't exactly sure where we were going. We had a whole bunch of different segments. We always stood with segments. We have a bit like a radio format. We have a segment. We used to do a segment called This Day in History, and then we still have a segment called Another Brilliant Moment, brought to you by religion, and a segment of the news, the local stuff, and then surely our show developed more into an interview style show. So usually that's what we have. We usually have a guest on that. We do an interview for the second half of the show. The first half is pretty much what we're doing right now. We're doing chatting, doing a whole bunch of stuff, and our segments. There were some people that came here and wanted to do the show to be a debate show. We realized we were not necessarily good at debating or not. We just realized we're just normal people. Some of these people out there would like to have a show that's very, very intellectual. Well, we're not necessarily super intellectual, especially myself. So we're just normal schmoes, doing a show and talking to, like having a coffee with people the way you would normally engage people. And I think that's part of the charm of our show.
It is, and I think one of the things that makes our show is we really do our best. Well, Kevin does. I can't take any credit for it at all. Kevin really
you flattered me, madam.
Yeah, Kevin really dynamite guests, and that we learn something, and that's when our audience really sits up and pays attention, because we get some fabulous guests in all kinds of disciplines.
Except for this Cory Johnson fellow. He was a bore.
It was kind of a crack in the road there.
Yeah.
Who have been some of your favorite guests?
Sorry?
So who have been some of your favorite guests?
Oh my God.
That's not even a question. Eli Bosnick.
Nice.
David Fitzgerald.
David Fitzgerald's always a great guest. Peter Boghossian. Aaron Raw is always a favorite of ours as well.
Aaron is wonderful. Jerry Coyne.
Yes, I had the immense pleasure of interviewing in person James Randi. Yeah, and that was a bit of a milestone.
Nice,
made the man. Oh, he was so great. I mean, the guy is what? He's in his 90s, 90s now.
Yeah.
And his brain is still incredibly sharp. His hands are still super smooth, and he's joking. He's doing card tricks in front of me as I'm interviewing him. And it's like, you got to be kidding me! I just hope I'm half as sharp when I'm in my 80s.
Yeah, for sure.
Del Rey, yes, Dr. Del Rey, and we did just a couple of good interviews with Dr. Veronica Drance about the whole LGBT transgendered issue, which actually brought us a new member of the crew. He's not here tonight, but his name is Brad, so he's going to be joining the crew too. But he's been in the middle of this whole fight. I was kind of hoping he'd be up here tonight for that. So yeah, our guests have been very various. We like to encourage authors. We bring them on. We talk about the book. We had Michael Sherman not too long ago. Matt Dillahunty, Seth Andrews, of course. The whole cabal. So we've had for a tiny little show out of British Columbia. We've had some pretty stellar guests, and I'm not afraid to say that.
No, that's good.
And we had Sasquatch Hunter.
Yeah, we had a Sasquatch Hunter. Almost a Sasquatch Hunter. He was actually very reasonable.
Did he at least find the studio?
Well, he had to come out of the woods.
Yeah.
But, he was actually we thought for sure that he would be a bit of a crank and all that. But no, he was actually super reasonable to the point of saying, he thought that Sasquatch was just a Giganticus, a species of Giganticus that was maybe still around. And I said to him, if we manage to prove that there is no such thing, would you accept that? He says, yeah, I would be forced to accept that because that's where the evidence would lead me. And I thought, wow, this was not at all what I expected to see from this guy. So we had some very, very interesting guests.
Yeah, we have. And they all lived to tell the tale.
Nice.
Where in BC are you guys?
We are located in a little town called Abbotsford. Now, if you know Vancouver, we're about 45 minutes down the highway, Highway 1, heading east. Abbotsford has, what you might not know, happens to be the church capital of Canada. There are more churches per capita right here in Abbotsford than anywhere else in the country.
It's where the Bible Belt buckles it up.
Exactly. The town is run by the Mennonites. Nothing's done here unless you're in kudos with the Mennonites, and it's very conservative. So that's one of the reasons why we call the show Left of the Valley. It's not just because I have a tendency to hang left. It's also because, you're a bit left in the valley by yourself when you're an atheist. So that was one of the reasons for the name of the show. So
do you have to do this like underground? Is this in like an RV or something that's driving around town?
Pirate radio.
Tell Bruce to turn left. Keep moving, because if they trail us eventually,
Quick, it's the Pope mobile.
The Mennonites might feed you, though. That's all the Mennonites would do.
You see, we tell the Mennonites that we're like the gremlins. You don't get us wet. You don't feed us after midnight, because you just might turn more rabid then.
Yeah,
scare them.
Do you know what'll happen if you get an atheist wet?
Yeah, I think even though we are like a heavily concentrated area of like religion, people are still pretty decent. Like Kirsten and I can like go walk in the mall and like hold hands, and we're not like being attacked.
Oh yeah,
thankfully. You definitely get like side looks.
Oh, there's some really great looks.
For your American listeners, we have to specify here: the Canadian Bible Belt is nowhere near.
Yeah. Although Saskatchewan conservatism is a little bit more like down in the States than some places.
We're definitely Alabama A.
Right.
Alabama light.
Yeah.
No, I always have a feeling that because the population of the planet is so religious, I think Earth is like the Alabama of the universe.
Probably.
Don't even stop here for that, right? It's like, don't even stop there, Zorg. Not even for fuel.
Drive on through.
No, they're still not over that one guy. Come on.
Stop only for rectal probing. That is all.
Show them what they're missing.
I don't know what it is, As soon as they see you, they just drop their pants. It's like, maybe it's something to say hello. I don't know.
Instead of hands up, pants down?
Yep.
You guys are ready as heaven is by now, aren't you?
So what's the religious reach in your government like there?
Religious reach in the government.
Do you have a lot of prayer in your legislative buildings and whatnot?
Not so much right now, because right now we have an NDP government.
Mm-hmm. And Green.
And with a coalition with the Greens.
Right.
But before that, we had a liberal, although they call themselves liberals, they're actually conservatives. The ex-premier was much more prone to go to prayer meetings and stuff like that. But there are some groups that are working hard to make sure that religion doesn't encroach too much. For example, I found out not too long ago that creationism is now allowed to be taught in our schools here in BC, which is great, and that's been happening since '96. So there is progress. However, Abbotsford being just on the U.S. border, we're really close. I mean, I can just drive 2 miles down there if we take a right, and we'll be at the U.S. border. We are seeing a bit of an influx coming from the south. A couple years ago, Nancy and I noticed that there were some creationist booth, for example, at the Agri-Fair and stuff like that. So we're seeing it's trying to seep in. It's trying to sneak in, right?
Do you have the pro-lifers and stuff picketing on university campuses and whatnot?
Maybe not on university campuses, but I know there's a church that every October they'll do a protest on the side of the road.
We have a religious college at the town just to the west of us called Langley, which is Trinity Western, which is and if you've heard about them, they're the university that wants and did start a law school, but they've been in litigation ever since to see whether or not they're actually a law school.
Yeah, they had a behavior pledge thing going on.
Right. You had to have chastity pledge.
Yeah.
I don't think it was required chastity, but you couldn't have like extramarital relations.
You had to be married to have relations. So even if you ain't allowed.
The Catholics,
but
well, at least
married, but you couldn't have you couldn't even get married or have
no. If you were married, that was fine. But if you're a single person, no, you're not having date night or sex night or anything like that.
But
and if you're LGBT, forget that.
Yeah, forget about it.
Yeah.
So, I do know that I don't know about all Christian religions, but the Catholics believe that you are being chaste if you have sex within marriage. That is part of the definition of chastity.
Really?
Yes.
Catholics have sex, really?
Have you seen them kids they have?
Some of them have a lot of kids, so I got to assume.
That was just the Irish thing.
Trinity has a I don't know what you call it. You have an affirmation that everyone has to sign, including
they call it the covenant.
The faculty.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of.
That you believe in hell, and if you don't believe in hell, they can kick you off campus and out of the faculty. It's pretty conservative.
Which, of course, as you guys will, I'm sure you'll agree, what bothers us a lot about the Trinity Western is this is like the making of Pat Robertson University North Edition, essentially, right? It's exactly how these universities started down there, and these people have a plan. And it's one of the things I lament about atheism. We have a tendency to rest on our laurels too much because we have a tendency to say, oh, we have the truth on our side. Maybe so. But in the political arena, truth doesn't matter. The Christians are always on the attack. They're always on the attack, and they don't take no for an answer until they get what they want.
Well, for a lot of people, a comforting lie is better than a hard truth.
Yeah, but we are still the only line of defense, really.
Yeah.
So,
can we go back to the thing about how if you don't believe in hell, you get kicked out of the college? Because isn't what you believe sort of not... You don't choose what you believe, right? You believe whatever it is that the evidence or your feelings or whatever it is that convinces you of something. Like, I couldn't make myself believe in God. I just don't.
You and I know that, but you talk about a population that believes you can choose to be gay. So in their mind, it doesn't matter. As far as the Christians are concerned, yes, you can choose to believe it.
Yeah, that's true. They believe in the whole free will external of your brain type thing.
Exactly, right?
And the whole taking Jesus in your heart kind of thing too.
This is where you get all these wonderful lines like, oh, you're not sent to hell, you send yourself to hell because you choose to go to hell. Right. And all that stupidity they come up with. Because these people don't view belief the same way we do. We understand belief, we've studied it, we understand how it's, it's not something you could just choose. But to the religious mind, it's not something they've accepted yet.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, we had I think it was in 2015, we have a humanist atheist group that used to meet every Sunday, and they were about, at the peak of the group, I guess there were about 20, 25 of us, and we got a little brash and decided we'd put on a couple of events that were draws for the humanist group in Vancouver as well as ours, and open to the public. And one of the events that we put on was a debate between Richard Carrier and one of the faculty actually at Trinity Western. His name was Michael Horner.
That's right.
And we had it at the university here, which was very open to having the event. We packed the house. No blows were started either way. And it started a dialogue, I think, between the two communities that lasted about 15 minutes. But at least everybody came together and had a question and answer period. And we really felt at that time that the community realized that we were here, and maybe we weren't intellectually harmless, but at least we had a presence, and I think we gained a little bit of respect. It was a really good. We also had Peter Boghossian here,
and Eugenie Scott,
and Eugenie Scott. Yeah.
Let me tell you something about Richard Carrier. He's a great guy, and that guy can pack his whiskey. He is good. He is good.
Yeah. So it's a tiny town. It's about 150,000. Yeah. But we've had some significant, nice events we're proud of.
Did you just call it a tiny town?
Yeah, they're weird.
No, I hear you. This is by far the smallest city I've ever lived in, but most people out here are from an actual small town, from a town of 500 people. How many people were you from?
500?
I grew up in a hamlet.
Of how many?
80.
Yeah. So, Everyone, to them, Regina, which is 200,000 people, is the big city. This is it in Saskatchewan. This is it.
I grew up in a place where there was 30 buildings.
Doesn't matter.
4 of them were inhabited.
Nice.
The size of your town or the size of your microphone doesn't matter. Trust me.
That's right.
That's why Angela's got the biggest one.
Actually, that's not true. The mic size does matter.
The mic size does matter.
Some guy disagrees.
So does penis size. No, I mean...
One Dave disagrees.
It does when you're trying to target it for radiation therapy.
It's all about
We're not
the girth.
talking about that.
Dave, did you say
No,
girth?
the microphone diaphragm.
Diaphragm?
The size of the diaphragm matters.
That's right.
It actually does. I'm not lying.
A lot of protection. Like I said, the left of the valley Facebook podcasts are not necessarily those of.
It's okay. We say it at the end.
The brainstorm will try not to get any on you. There may be some splashback.
Might be some splashback. Oh, I thought this was going to be a classy affair tonight. Whoa!
Dude, we never do classy.
No, I know, but I was.
I'm sorry, classy?
We do classic, and sometimes it's third class.
There we go.
I've always been more of a steerage type.
Oh, that was brilliant. Oh, sorry, guys.
I forgot where we were.
We're talking about deconversion. We're talking about the city of Abbotsford, and we're talking about Trinity
the tiny
Western.
town of Abbotsford.
Yep. Tiny town.
Town of Abbotsford, that's right.
I've been there. I have family that live there.
That's the least surprising thing.
What now?
You had family that lived there?
In Abbotsford. I like Abbotsford.
They probably know them. It's a tiny town.
Yeah, they probably do.
Of a mere 150,000 people.
Oh, yeah, she thought about Bob. You know Bob.
I've heard more than one story where that has happened, where someone from Canada has been traveling internationally and sits beside somebody on a plane and they have a common friend.
I actually know Bob from Canada. He moved to Germany.
I saw his post. He's a Canadian in a Canada van.
It wasn't Bob McKenzie?
No,
that's the other Bob. We
Bob
all
from
know
Canada.
that Bob.
It was Doug McKenzie.
I'm sure I've seen a stand-up comedian do that bit where it's like, yeah, they always say if you're from Canada, then do you know Tim from Toronto? Yeah, Tim. He's an asshole.
Yeah, but he makes good coffee.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
Blasphemy.
Yep, there's the line.
Yeah. So have you guys
say 27 roll-ups before you kneel before the cup again?
Yeah.
So I have a question for you guys. I was wondering if you guys have seen in your circle of influence anybody who's frustrated by the federal government's new regulations about government funding to different nonprofit organizations. There's been a lot of blowback from Christian organizations who aren't getting funding now from the government because they have to say that they believe in same-sex marriage.
The Charter of Rights.
Yeah.
That's what they have to say, but that's included. But the same-sex thing is in the Charter of Rights.
Have you guys noticed anything to that end in your world?
I haven't, because the religious people that, like my family members, aren't very politically engaged.
Okay.
Unless it's like through Alex Jones. And he doesn't really care about Canada.
No.
So I honestly haven't seen much.
When you come to BC, federal politics really takes a backseat. Really goes far, and a lot of people in BC have a tendency to feel isolated because of that. Because of course, most of the population of the country is in Quebec and Ontario, and of course, most of the attention is spent there as well. Yeah. BC has a tendency to feel a bit left, like that last child that's being ignored. BC has.
So we throw a lot of temper tantrums.
Yeah.
Do it right. If we actually did it right, we could actually get some stuff in BC.
Yeah, but you actually have MPs. We have one.
Yeah.
Seriously?
No, we have more than one MP.
We have one in the ruling party, I should say.
Oh, yeah, we have one in the Liberal Party.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, no.
Because everybody else voted Conservative. Yeah.
Everyone else.
No. We got an NDP MP here. An
Right.
NDP. We're in an NDP riding right now. My friend Aaron Weir.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Are you really friends with him?
Yeah, we were good friends with his parents, actually. Yeah.
You know, as a Quebec, I get a lot of people that right here in BC will tell me, "Oh, Quebec always gets whatever it wants, and why is it? They always, they always get their stuff." And I say, "Well, yeah, exactly. That's how politics works." You know, take for example Quebec and BC. Quebec will whine, BC will whine. Quebec will do something about it, and BC has a tendency to say, "Well, what are you going to do?"
Yeah.
Right. I mean, remember, was it what year was it when the whole province of Quebec went NDP orange? You know,
2013, 2012.
The year doesn't matter, but if any province did something like that, if any province stood up as one and just went one different color, don't you think that Ottawa would notice?
Yeah, for sure.
Although things might change for BC when they would legalize weed.
Oh, heck yeah.
Things might change a little bit there.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, it's really interesting with the different government that's just come in, because it is a way more left-leaning with the Green and NDP.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting to see the different things they've been doing, where with the Liberals, when they were in power, it wasn't even like an option or an idea.
Well, what troubles me, though, is you're still seeing the same kind of polarization you see down south in the States.
Yeah.
It's happening. Right? I mean, you have some people that, for example, they'll say, the NDP in BC, we don't like him. And then when you ask them why, they can't really give you an answer. You know, they just hate him because they're supposed to.
He's part of the others.
Yeah, exactly. He wants his liberals back in, or his or hers. And that's the way they do. And even when I think there's a very link that you can actually make between religion and politics, because when you actually sit down with somebody, you say, for example, they're conservatives, you start asking about their history, and you realize, well, mom and dad voted conservative, and grandpa voted conservative, and I vote conservative. And then when you start asking deeper questions about the policy, you realize you're not conservative at all. You would actually more align with another party. You just vote conservative because you've always done that. The same way we do with religion. You believe in Jesus. Why? Not because you ever gave it any thought. It's because you were raised in it. And so you accept it as a fact of life.
So you're going to start the Bloc Québécois in BC?
No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
That's because Bloc Colombie-Britannique doesn't really roll off the tongue the same way.
There is a bit of a movement here in BC that would love to see separation from the rest of the country.
That's such a bad
Bloc CB. Bloc CB.
Yeah.
Do it.
As the Quebecer who was there during the whole last vote for separation in sovereignty in Quebec, if my Generation X, doesn't vote for sovereignty, it will never happen. Because it's a movement that appeals to the very old and that have been there forever, and the very young that are very rebellious. Anybody that's in between that has seen outside of the Quebec and has seen that people are not out there to kill you, you realize there's no difference really.
Was that actually an attitude in Quebec at one point? As kind of like a strain of isolationism to it?
Almost.
Yeah.
When I first announced that I was moving to Vancouver, some people were coming to warn me and say, "Hey, look, my buddy Bob went to Vancouver and he was wearing his Bob." He would say Bob, right? He was wearing his Fleur de Neil on his T-shirt and he was stabbed. You hear all these stupid anecdotes, right? And when I'm here in BC and I hear stories of people, "Hey, you ever visited Quebec?" "Oh no, I can't go there because my buddy Bob went over there and he was speaking English and he got stabbed."
Bob's not lucky.
Bob goes around. Bob goes around.
He obviously smashed a few mirrors in his youth.
Yeah.
But it really is just that. It's anecdotal and crappy evidence. But people just attach themselves to these stories.
What part of Quebec are you from?
Quebec City.
Huh.
Yeah, so that's why Abbotsford is small for him.
It's only about 500,000.
Only.
I'm sorry. We between your two cities, you have our province. So, well, most of it,
just about.
So, yeah.
Now we got 1 million people here.
We don't even have an IKEA here. I
thought you were going to say an IQ, and I was like,
Fair enough.
We have a Costco. We have one. Does Saskatoon have two?
I think Saskatoon has two.
Fuck Saskatoon.
They have an IKEA, which
no, they don't.
No,
they don't.
You don't have it.
There's
we just got an H&M.
What?
What?
I don't give a fuck about H&M.
So cheap.
You can pull that, and
That's your bumper.
That's my bumper. I
don't give a fuck about H&M.
Except check it, change it. Dave will change it so you say, I don't give a fuck about S&M.
I'm sure I could find an S somewhere.
Yeah,
do it.
Do
I could just say it. I mean,
She's just gonna just come in here one day and record your own damn bumper.
Yeah.
That's okay. I'm recording everything on my end too. So
perfect.
So, what do you feel is the most distinct thing about being left at the Valley?
Sorry, say that again.
What do you think is the most distinct? Like, what would you consider a defining feature?
Like I said, we're an interview-based show. The fact that we're here, and with the fact that we're from different walks of life and different avenues, and often I'll have a guest and I'll have a couple of questions prepared, but you never know where an interview is going to go. So I might ask questions, but then Kirsten will pipe up with a question that I never would have thought of. Because, and that's how I used to encourage people to come on the show. People would say, oh, I don't know what to say. I wouldn't know what to say on the if you put a microphone in front of me. It doesn't matter. You will say something that somebody in the audience would have thought of that maybe I would never think of.
That's how I ended up here.
You broke into the RV. It's like, I have things to say.
Everybody's got a different point of view.
I bring donuts, though.
You bring donuts?
Cory, why don't we have donuts?
I'm not bringing donuts.
I've brought donuts a few times. Nobody ate them.
I ate them.
That's true. Dave ate them. That's true.
Thanks for the donuts.
What's distinctive about us is exactly the same thing that's distinctive with you. If our show, if our show had exactly the same format with a different cast of characters, it'd be a totally different show. And the same with you. If you had all of the content, but you had a group of different people, it would be totally different and not as interesting and not as fun. And the chemistry would be different. It might be entertaining, but it wouldn't be distinctive the way and unique the way it is with us. And I think that's what drives us, is being able to know that when we come in, we have no idea what's going to happen except for the interview. And sometimes we surprise ourselves that we're so bad, and sometimes we surprise ourselves because we're so outstanding. And we're someplace in between, and that's what makes us distinct.
And this was a perfect example, because just before the show, we were talking about this kind of stuff, and I was saying the great thing about Nancy is that when I give a crappy answer, she takes over the show and gives a very good answer. Right there. I gave a crappy answer, and she just jumped in and just, bam, analyzed everything.
It happens all the time.
She's the Batman to your Robin.
Yeah. Pretty much. I'm actually more joker in this thing. I just know how to play press record on this podcast, and that's my function.
I used to try and tell people that the reason that I make the most mistakes is because I'm the one who has to talk the most. So that's fair.
But don't you guys feel that it's the chemistry between all of you that makes you so distinctive?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say.
Well, I was thinking if we took out everyone and replaced it, our show might be good. Chemistry would be different, but it might be good.
Cory wouldn't be listening; he'd just be watching those listener numbers and just like cursing to himself.
Would these new hosts like actually read their articles before the podcast?
Yeah, might help.
Really? Weird.
Shots fired. Shots fired.
I totally deserve that. Can we have a Nancy on our show, Cory? Can you put in an application for one somewhere?
I'm sure I can look for one.
Yeah, there's only one Nancy.
She has murdered off all the other ones.
Like a generic, like non-name brand one, maybe. A knockoff Nancy.
A knockoff Nancy.
I think she has a very aggressive copyright on that.
We'll just call her No Name.
It's a firm patent.
Go down to Chinatown and buy a Nancy out of somebody's van. No.
Compliments, Nancy. Great value, Nancy.
I I feel like
President's choice, Nancy.
you're back from a tangent. This is what would happen. You're at the back.
I think you're right. She should start her own band, Nancy and the Jews. That'd be a great band.
Actually, it would be a really good band. I'd go to that gig.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere.
Start of every song.
There was a sort of a Western band in Texas, and I forget, it was somebody in the Jew Boys, but I forget who the lead was. I can take it over now. I'm going to be Nancy and the Jew Boys.
Probably. And that's what we're going to title this episode.
Nancy and the Jew Boys? Oh, fuck.
Are we going to get blowback from that?
We're either going to get sued or the most listeners ever.
I'm thinking it's from some hate mail from some alt-right assholes.
Yeah, probably.
So right now, just hung up, I think. Oh, God.
You guys are awesome.
We needed that.
We could go 2 hours if we wanted to.
I think that what makes us distinct is, like you say, the chemistry with everybody, but it changes because we have people who can't make it all the time, and we have like 3 or 4 other members who sometimes substitute in, so it's a different dynamic every time.
It's crew. I'm quite envious. Was it
He wants
difficult
to
for you
get rid
guys?
of me.
No.
Are we not good enough for you, Kevin?
Do you not appreciate my Harry Potter jokes?
Just bring the RV to Regina one
Yeah,
night.
drive the RV this way.
But just imagine, like, if the crew that you have was unreliable and kind of flaky.
So you needed to have, like, at least 8 to have a critical mass of a show.
Yeah.
Ever.
Okay, good. Sounds exactly like our show, actually.
I got like a 35 to 40% attendance rate. I need all of you people.
Why get that kind of stuff 15 minutes before the show starts? Oh, we can't make it. What? No!
You've seen some of Cory's emails?
Cory sends emails?
I know.
Should have said text.
I mean, I really wish you'd stop that.
This is about you, Lionel.
Leo.
Fuck.
Fuck.
You're going to make fun of him. At least get his name right.
Oh, no.
Wait,
If you're going to make fun of somebody, make fun of Gumby.
Yeah.
Who the hell's that guy?
Yeah. Right now, Gumby's king of flake.
Possibly dead.
Gumpy's always been King Flake.
His name isn't actually Gumby, but I was having a hard time figuring that out early on.
He's just really tall.
And he used to be really skinny.
And he used to be
What?
skinny, so
Yeah.
that's why he got his nickname.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Does he have a horse called Pokey?
And no, he did not have it.
He may call his car Pokey.
He would never call his car anything derogatory because he sells them and has totally drunk the Mazda Kool-Aid. Like, come on.
Yeah, that's right.
Anyways, sorry.
So
What
we
are
have guests here.
Oh, fuck.
This show took a left big time.
Should we ask
Hard
what
left.
they do when,
There's
when
no
they're
valley
not
here.
When you're not making millions of dollars podcasting, what else do you do with your time?
I milk
Always
cows.
Podcasting.
For a
Sorry,
living?
what?
Cows?
Yep, I milk cows.
Do you
By hand?
By hand?
Yep.
Really?
I sit down, I pay. No, it's machines. I use machines.
I thought you worked at some weird organic farm that was like, we only have hand squeezed cows or some shit.
No, she says that, but she's actually an escort. She's a female escort.
But only for breastfeeding mothers.
So do you still use the term milking
That's a
cows?
thing.
Yes.
Well, what else would you call it? What other term would you
Attaching
use?
machinery to cows?
No, but he says what else? He says you still call it milking cows. What else would you call it?
Playing with tits.
Yep.
I don't know. I don't think you can put that on a resume.
Well, it's not so much that you can't put it on the resume.
Should.
It's not that you can't put it on the resume. It's hard to justify that you've been doing it for 8 years
No.
and you want to consider experience in the field. That's just recreation.
It makes such good money.
She's a lesbian. It's fine.
Escort job with milking cows.
Oh,
So we have someone who milks cows. What do the rest of you fine folks do for a living?
Some of them spectate milking cows.
I work at a hardware store.
Nice.
Hey, that's useful.
It is very useful.
I used to do sales for a hydraulic company, and now I just switched jobs. I'm
Wait.
going to be a crane operator.
What company?
I was a company called British Hydraulics.
Okay. I
It was a
work for
small-
a sort of competitor.
Sorry?
I work for a sort of competitor.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Quick.
High power?
Oh, really?
Yeah, I work for the parent company. I applied.
What are the odds?
Right?
That's what
It's Canada.
We called it. We called it, folks.
I'm also not known as Bob.
Yeah.
But your name
And
starts
then-
with a B.
Nancy, she's a wandering Jew, so she
She's done everything.
travels and kills people for contracts.
Nobody suspects Nancy.
That'll take up a lot of time.
Do you make decent money? Or do you have to take in between jobs?
Well, between assassinations?
Yeah.
I didn't.
Between assassinations, you make a lot of money?
Oh,
or-
between the. Oh, yeah.
She's a veteran. She can pick her own contracts now.
Okay.
If there's a huge
She doesn't have to pick up shifts at Starbucks.
I'm a little old lady. I can get away with anything. I can do outrageous. I can blend into the crowd. Doesn't make any difference.
I'd watch that movie. I feel like she'd be played by Helen Mirren.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Totally. Oh,
or Betty White.
Yeah, that's a tough choice.
That's a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing going on there with Betty White all of a sudden. Miss Hyde.
Oh my Dame Judi Dench.
I mostly do volunteer work with the homeless, and I support Dying with Dignity, which is one of the groups here that does a lot of good work. So I keep busy.
Nancy tried to open up the first Canadian Dignity Village right here in Abbotsford. There's a model of a village in Portland where the homeless are brought into these tiny, tiny houses where it gives them a chance to get themselves together and get off the drugs and get themselves clean and build a resume and stuff like that. And Nancy had worked very hard with a friend of ours, Jeff, to do this, bring this kind of thing here for the homeless in Abbotsford. But unfortunately, her efforts were met with a city that was more willing to legislate by.
Well, they like developers, and they really didn't care that much about the homeless. So they didn't believe that a self-empowered village could be run well by people who are homeless. So we gave it 4 years and tried our best, but it'll happen.
It's very unfortunate. It all started. What was it? The chicken manure incident that actually made international news.
That's right.
And the mayor at the time wanted to get rid of the homeless camp, and he had the city dump chicken manure all over the camp in an effort to get them to disperse.
Oh, jeez.
And it was absolutely disgraceful. It made international news. And Nancy at the time was working hard behind the scene to try to get these people to some safe location, and she did fantastic work. She actually had a private donor that gave the land, and all the city had to do was basically route a bus line and maybe give them water, and the thing was self-sustaining, and the city still said no because they'd rather operate by their philosophy, conservative philosophy here in the Valley. And of course, I thought it was outrageous because, in such a Christian holy city as Abbotsford, you would think the homeless would be taken care of, but no.
But there is a documentary called The Chicken Manure Incident, which tells you what Abbotsford was like in 2013 and 14.
I'm still pissed off about
philosophically.
I'm still pissed off about that because the guy who did the documentary at the time visited our group, our atheist group, and he was a Christian filmmaker. And normally when you do a documentary, you expose the problem, you go deep into the problem, and normally you try to end with a positive solution. Well, the guy chose at the end, instead of ending with Nancy and her group trying to build a Dignity Village to help them, he decided to end his documentary with showing the homeless people being baptized in a kiddie pool. What? And I thought, what a moron! Why would you do such a thing?
It's very helpful.
Exactly. It's not going to help at all. And, of course, because we found out he was a Christian filmmaker, so.
Right.
So he already had his conclusion figured out before he finished his documentary.
Exactly.
That's disappointing.
things will work out the way they're supposed to. It just takes time and determination and a belief that there's a right way that will eventually conquer all of the apathy. That it'll work out.
But it pisses me off because this is such a problem that we shouldn't have as a society in general at all.
Yeah.
I was talking to a friend the other day. He said, you do realize, for example, you just take the United States. These churches in the United States make $80 billion a year. It's estimated, right? Now, the UN came out and said it would cost between $30 and $50 billion a year to solve hunger worldwide. Now, the U.S., just the U.S. churches, which is 5% of the world population, could solve that problem by themselves. So if you still have poverty today in the world, it's not because we can't solve it. It's because we don't want to. And I don't care how much Christian charity you think you do. It's bullshit. All you're trying to do is you're trying to say, okay, I'll give you a sandwich, but listen to this sermon first.
Yes. Well, and that's the reason why, like, I know people who are like, oh, there shouldn't be like support systems for impoverished people because, charities will take care of it. It's like, no, they won't.
No, exactly. Charities don't. They don't. Anyway, don't get me going there.
Yeah, that's a rabbit hole we could go down for sure.
Yeah, that's right. We're actually coming up on the hour, so I think what we'll do is get you to plug your stuff and then let you go.
Oh, is that on plug? Okay. Well, our show is Left at Valley. If you want to hear more about our quacky little adventures, you can find us at leftatvalley.com. You can find us on Facebook, on Twitter at LETV Podcast. You can send us an email at leftatvalley@outlook.com. You can send your complaints to Nancy on the 3rd floor.
I don't know. Is that safe?
You don't want the assassin having your address.
I'll give him Angela's. It's harder to find.
Mind you.
And of course, we pass on Blog Talk Radio, but you can also find us on Spreaker, on Stitcher, on iTunes, on YouTube, and all these podcast things.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you
Android,
do the Twitter?
Yeah, we do the Twitter a bit.
That's a really personal question, Cory.
Bloodly advanced. I know, but I'm not. Okay, I will. Yep.
No defense there, hey?
Nope.
No defense there.
As long as you use protection.
Exactly.
Exactly.
Or just not have to worry about pregnancy because you don't hang out with dudes.
Yeah.
That is a good point.
I feel attacked here. I'm the only male in the room.
When you're a woman, men and their semen's just annoying.
Sorry?
I don't blame you, actually.
Can't really argue against that.
That's very helpful, Cory.
For the show with blowjobs and semen. All right.
Semen is annoying. The message.
The moral of the story is apparently
Good thing we've come full circle.
Yes. That was good.
If you turn left the whole time, you come first full circle.
There you go.
Right?
The new logo.
you make a mess of that one intersection, though.
Good.
All right.
Shouldn't say much more.
We've reached the climax of the episode.
I need a cigarette now.
Have we, though? Are we into the afterglow?
I'm suddenly really sleepy. Let's watch The Late Show and fall asleep.
Yeah, so if you guys are interested,
Whoa.
well, if you guys are interested, last week we had Shelley Seagull on our show, and this week we'll have Saab, which is actually, she used to be Crystal. Well, that should be interesting.
Sweet.
Very cool.
They're not listening to it.
Cool. Be nice to them.
I'm always nice.
Yes, we can tell
Thanks
from
so
all
much
the
for
way
having
here.
us. Okay.
Thanks for coming
We appreciate
on.
Oh, it's been a lot
We
of
should do
fun.
this again. This is fun.
was so much
Yeah,
fun.
we should.
Maybe we'll
As soon as we find a place to park our trailer there.
Yeah, it would be cool to have you guys in studio.
We'll need a bigger studio.
Yeah, we'll need a bigger studio.
Dave, you have to move.
We need another rec table.
I have enough microphones, I think. So there you go.
Perfect.
Hey.
All right. Thanks again, and have a good one.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
Have a good one.
Take care.
All right. So that's where we're going to close the Skeptic Studio. I want to thank the crew from the Left of the Valley podcast for joining us, and I will put a link to all their stuff in the show notes on brainstormblog.net. Let's go to that ad break. All right. We have no listener feedback besides Jeremiah Trigger recommending a change of the name for the round table to the rec table.
The rec. Yeah.
The rectable. We have no new patrons, but thank you to our top patrons: Bassett, Destin Doesn't Suck That Much, Lachlan, Daryl, Aaron, and Positively Skeptical.
Who what? Destin doesn't suck that much?
Destin doesn't suck that much.
Is that a change of name now?
Yes, that's a name change.
No, Destin Sucks is still a patron. Destin Doesn't Suck That Much is a separate patron.
Oh, that's a separate patron.
Destin Doesn't Suck That Much is one of our top patrons.
Oh. There's got to be a competition now for this.
That's right.
We need a new person to be a patron. Your name can be Destin Sucks Hard or something. Like, come on, people.
Yeah, that's right. Destin sucks a lot, especially when he doesn't come to the show.
I know Destin.
He doesn't listen either. No new iTunes reviews or Facebook reviews. If you give us a rating and write a review, then we'll really appreciate it, and we'll read it on the air. I don't have anything to plug. I'm working on my Hardcore Skeptic stuff slowly, but anybody else have things to plug?
Definitely.
The Science March is tomorrow.
Yep. As per last edition, 2 p.m., we have a speaker, Dr. Brett Hall from the university, and he'll be screening Science Moms, as we spoke about. For clarification, for those who may not be clear for, there is no admission to the event. However, if you want to take the Science Center in late before or after, that is a separate admission.
There we go.
So what's at the Science Center?
At the Saskatchewan Science Center.
At 2 p.m.?
2 p.m.
All right.
Kid-friendly.
Kid-friendly.
Yep.
Perfect. Dave?
Hey. How's it going?
Has Dave done a
pretty
thing
good?
He wants
Yourself?
us to see?
Do you have any stuff to plug, Dave?
I don't have anything immediately to plug. No. So
we already plugged your gigs that are coming up tomorrow.
Well, I'm not actually doing that anymore.
Oh, is that right?
No, it's been too hectic for me to leave town.
Okay.
So
that's good. You have lots of work.
Well, yeah, if you're busy, that's good.
I'm busy, and also I just don't have the energy to do extra. So
fair.
It's kind of a matter of just chasing the things that pay enough, and then being able to rest after that because I'm just getting too old for that. So yeah. But lots of, if you watch TV in Saskatchewan, you probably see lots of my commercials. I just don't want to plug them right now because
they do their own thing.
It's not the place to do that. So yeah.
Angela, what about your thing?
I'm selling my notebooks at the Etsy Made in Canada spring sale at the university on May the 5th, 10 to 5.
May the 5th. 10 to 5? You're going to be there all day?
All day.
May the 5th. That's a Saturday?
Yep. It's the science and technology atrium or something like that.
Cool.
It's between the education and it's fancy new.
Do you have an
space.
Etsy store too?
I do. Sparkling Medusa is my Etsy store.
Sparkling Medusa.
Mm-hmm.
Look at it once and then be petrified.
It's only got awesome things on there, and I'm making new stuff all the time. So
that also happens to be your Twitter.
Yeah, Sparkling Medusa. It's been my handle on a lot of different things. So I just kind of went with it for my Etsy store because I like the feminist theme around it. And I got my artsy friend, my very, very talented friend, to make me a logo.
Nice.
And it's a Medusa, but it's soft and colorful and
sparkly,
watercolory.
Nice.
It's not sparkly.
What?
That seems
bullshit.
contradictory.
But it looks amazing. I'm super jacked. I just got my business cards this week, and it's
what?
Yeah, stickers too.
Let's start handing them out.
Okay. That's what it looks like.
Nice.
I want to see. Very nice.
It's very cool.
It's
for listeners of this audio format.
It's very cool.
It is very
There's
cool.
like colors and shit, and you have to go to her fucking page to see it.
Go to my Etsy store. Favorite it.
Sparkling Medusa.
Yeah.
Very cool. Anybody else?
I got nothing.
You got nothing? Renee, you don't got anything? All right. Let's cue the outro music this time. All right. For everything else, you can check out the show notes at thebrainstormpodcast.com and our website, brainstormblog.net. I'm slowly catching up on show notes on this. I've also been working on the website so that it's more navigation friendly. It's easy to get around on. So check that out. Thanks to our financial supporters, Zach, the Utah Outcasts, Bassett, Will, Aaron, Daryl, Destin Sucks, Lachlan. Destin doesn't suck that much.
We're going to get feedback next week.
Magnus, Michael, Positively Skeptical, Rob, and Stephanie. If you want to join them and help the show grow, then you can do that at patreon.com/brainstormpodcast. You can also support us by donating to our GoFundMe for the conference at gofundme.com/shift-2-reason-conference-2018.
We got to work on that.
Or you can go buy some stuff, t-shirts and whatnot at tpublic.com/stores/brainstorm-podcast-gear. Yes, I know. That's a million slashes and dashes. That's why you go to the show notes. You can join us every second week when we broadcast live on brainstormradio.net. Our next show is on April 27th, and our guest will be Ian Harris, skeptical comedian. Thanks to Kevin and Company. I'm sorry I didn't remember everybody's names. Nancy, Kirsten, and Christina. There we go. Thank you, all of you, for joining us. You can find more of their stuff at leftatthevalley.com. Check out the episode of that show I was on. That's a few months ago now, though.
I thought they said that wasn't their best.
Yeah, they didn't say. They did say that was not their best. Thanks, Dave, for intro music. Thanks to Aaron Rabbi from the Embrace the Void podcast for doing our new intro voiceover. You can find his stuff at voidpod.com. Thanks to Alex Capper-Murdoch for doing the voiceover for our ads. Thanks to Jason Camo for the outro music. You can find his stuff at aloststateofmind.com. All music played is either with permission or under the SOCAN license to play. For more information on SOCAN, you can check out the music license info page on our website, brainstormblog.net. Remember to give us a rating, write a thumbs up, or a fave on your podcatcher of choice. Join our Facebook group, like our page, follow us on Twitter, share the show, and spread the word. For live listeners, stick around for the after show. I'll stick around anyway. I don't know if anybody else is.
I got to get up earlier than I'd like. So.
It's brainstormafterhours.com and listen to the bonus content after it goes patron only. Or before it goes patron only. Thanks for listening, and remember, the truth matters.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel. Any guests or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Cory, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.
We just wanted to say thanks to everyone who listens to us, shares the show, gives us a rating on iTunes or Stitcher, or supports us through Patreon and Gumroad. We don't have a lot of interactions with our listeners, but what we have had proves that we attract some of the best people around. Smart, kind, and cool. An audience truly worthy of the titles hardcore and woo-free. Thanks for helping us make the world a smarter place.